everyone. My name is Charles, and we're here in our knowledge sharing session with George Ridley, the founder and international director for Lightforce International. George, you're welcome to our session, and we're glad to have you. And we say, we request you to introduce yourself and let's know you more.
Thank you. It's nice to be with you. My name is George Ridley. I'm the International Director and founder of Lightforce International, a British NGO. We are based in the UK, and I've worked in Eastern Europe and India and Africa over the last 30 or more years. We are in Uganda since 2003. We came during the insurgency with the LRA, and we've worked here ever since. Right now, we are trying to bring development to an area on the outskirts of Lira in Northern Uganda, which involves education and also a farming project, which is geared up to help with the sustainability of our project. So that's where we're at the moment.
Oh, okay. You just said so. You have a school. You have a farm, and all these are activities that are geared towards sustainability of the organization. So should I say it is a non-profit organization?
Yes, we're a non-profit organization, and we're not running the projects to run the organization. We run the projects from the organization to try to build a sustainable financial base here for the project in Lira.
Okay. Going straight to Lightforce farm, tell us more about the farm. When did it start, and what was the motivation behind the farm itself?
The real challenge that we have is that in the long term, we don't want to be dependent on receiving funds from outside of Uganda. For lots of reasons, Corona would be one of them now, but it wasn't on the scene when we started our projects. But something like Corona can destroy your support base overnight. So what we wanted to do, we wanted to create something here that would help the sustainability of the project for the future. And being Northern Uganda, being an agricultural area, very rural, and where a lot of the population depends on the land and on livestock, we decided that we would help to train young farmers. So our vocational school has a specialization in agriculture and livestock production. We decided that we would develop some farming projects that would go along with that, so that when the students come to the school, they don't just sit in the classroom and hear about cows, hear about pigs and chickens and goats, but they can actually come onto the farm and they actually are able to see them, touch them, watch the habits, watch the breeding process, the birth process, and get involved in milking a cow and all of those things. So it really is for primary education, but if we are teaching young people to be farmers, they also need to learn how to run successful farming, which means we have to break the mold. We need some new paradigms, we need some new methods of working, rather than the farming for sustenance. We need farming that actually provides a living income. And if we can't do that from the school, we shouldn't be telling our students that they can go home and do it. And so we started piggery, we started poultry with layers and broilers. We started with some few goats, and we're bringing along also shortly some cows, some dairy cows. And so we have a complete mix. In addition, we have some crops and some fruits and vegetables.
Okay, that's good. You know, George, the start is always not that easy. I've had the privilege to be at your farm, and really I was motivated so much. I had a group of youth who also after that they were like, no, this is the way to go. Farming, we really love what is that Light Force Farm, and they were like, yes, this is what we need to do. So we saw you had pigs in the, quite many. You had chicken, birds. There were quite so many, and then you also had goats. Then you also have other things, other projects around that area where you are. How many pigs did you start with for the initial?
Some years ago, we actually had a project with pigs that is not the one you saw. We started with some 2 or 3 pigs, and they were local pigs, and the production was very pathetic, and we realized that if we were going to make this a sustainable project in the future, we had to change the quality of what we had. And one of the things that we've learned is that it's better to spend a little bit more and get better stock and do the job in an improved way, rather than start with local varieties that have been crossed so many times that you can't find anywhere to put a cross anymore.
So right now you have over 100 pigs, if I may say.
Yeah, that's true. We've produced 50 piglets just in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, well, that's good. Then about the chicken, how many did you start with?
And we started it with 400 birds.
So right now,
first of all, we had about 20 local birds at home. But then we moved on from there. From those 20 local birds, we decided that we wanted to go into egg production in a semi-serious way. So we got 400 layer chicks, and we raised them, and that was our first group of egg-laying birds. We grew that to about 1,600. Right now, as I talk to you, we have just under 400 birds about to lay, and we've sold off all of our old stock as off layers. I think today we have about 12 off layers left in the farm. We've sold all the rest. On Friday this coming week, we're receiving 1,100 day-old chicks that we'll raise again for laying.
Wow, okay. So you're saying you have about 400 birds right now that you've left behind to lay eggs. Back to the eggs. How many trays do you collect from your birds, like on a daily basis?
Right now we're collecting 0.
Okay.
But what you're looking for is 85-90%. So if you've got 100 birds, you're looking for about 3 trays a day.
Okay. Then the goats now. You had quite a number of goats, and then the management of the farm. So the setup, it was all good. How do you manage the management of the entire farm itself? You have birds, you have pigs, you have goats, then you have other projects around there. How do you balance your time managing all that?
Basically, my job is to be the director. I'm not to be the piggery manager. I'm not the goat manager or the chicken unit manager. I'm the director, so my responsibility is to put people in place. I have an operations manager. I have a personal assistant. We have a lady who handles finance in the office, and then at each unit we have somebody who's in charge. So for our other projects outside the farm, we have a nurse who's in charge of the clinic. We have somebody in charge of nursery, primary, agricultural when they're all running, which they're not right now because of lockdown. We have a unit manager for the piggery, a manager for the poultry unit, and a manager also for the goats. And then we have a technical supervisor who moves around to each of the units, giving support to those people, and also working with our trainees, because currently we have 10 young people between the age of 18 and 25 who come on a program that we're running for 1 year. It's a non-formal program, and they work in each unit for an average of 2 months at a time. And so they do piggery 2 months, chickens 2 months, etc. And so they move around the units throughout the year. The whole group comes together when we're doing things like weeding, planting. We have tractors for plowing. We want to introduce them to as many aspects of modern farming as we possibly can, so that they can decide either farming is not for me or farming is great, I want to be a farmer. And they've worked in different disciplines so they can choose in the future, maybe I'll go home and work with chickens or I'll work with pigs. They can see which area they lean towards and have a love for.
Okay. Maybe George, one more. How do you source your feeds for the animals, especially the pigs and then the birds? You know, we have quite so many counterfeits in the country, and I wouldn't say you're quite so different from other people who have been duped with counterfeits. How do you source your feeds?
We don't buy feeds. We buy all the elements, so we make our own feeds.
Okay.
So we buy maize bran, sunflower cakes, soya cakes, soya beans, rice bran, and we mix all the elements out. We grind our own corn, and we mix our own feeds, and we probably manage to do that at about 60% of the value of buying feeds in. Because one of the challenges with buying feeds in is you don't know whether what it says on the packet is really in there.
Yeah, sure.
So we know that what we're giving to our animals is what we're supposed to be giving them, because we mix it ourselves every week. We've been making about 2.5 ton of feed weekly for pigs and poultry. So it means we buy our own maize, and we stock it, so that we try to buy at the time when the production is at farm gate prices, at the lowest prices, so that we can stock. And so then as prices start to raise over 3 or 4 months, we are not hit by those increases so badly.
True. Oh, that is good. So you're safe from the risks of counterfeits. That's very, very good, and indeed it's important for any farmer to protect their properties from counterfeits. We saw,
and also if I can add there, also, not only do you know that your animals are getting the right feed, but you're also reducing the costs, because there's no profit for the feed manufacturer. You're saving that. You become your own manufacturer, and so you're not paying profits.
That's good. So we saw in your area that you have oranges. Now, on application of manure, what kind of manure do you apply onto the oranges? Is it personally made, or it is also sourced from outside?
No, at the moment we've not applied any manure other than general fertilizing of the garden, which we do with pig manure, well rotted pig manure after 1 year,
okay,
and our chicken manure as well. We've done some experiments because we have some plots right next to where we have the units, where we are growing maize, and we've done some experiments where we've tipped the manure. We brought it with the tractor and trailer, tipped it in one place, and then from that place we've spread it around manually. We don't have a spreader, mechanical spreader. We spread it around manually, and literally after we planted the maize, you can see where the concentration of the manure was. And one of the observations and practical things that we're trying to get our students to understand is that we've become very good at taking from the soil, but we've not been very good at adding value back to the soil. We just keep planting our maize. We plant again in second season. We plant again next year second season, and we expect the ground to keep performing for us. But what we've seen visibly is where we've manured well, it has brought great growth. And on the periphery of where those heaps were, as the boys have spread it with shovels, spades, they've spread manure around. As they've spread it, of course, the outer areas gets a lesser quantity of manure, and that is seen directly. If you wanted to come and find where we tipped the heap of manure from the trailer, you just go and see the maize is 2 feet higher and stronger than the rest of the maize. So everybody's getting the chance to see that feeding the ground is very important if you want the ground to feed us.
Okay. So how do you store, for how long do you store the manure? When you pick the pig droppings, the chicken droppings, how long do you store it to make it manure?
At the piggery, I think that there's not technically a time, but it's a process of decomposition. At the piggery, for example, we have a huge pit that's probably about 6 or 8 meters by 6 or 8 meters, and it's 2 meters deep. And basically, we fill that pit. So we have, as you said earlier, we have more than 100 pigs. I think we're pushing to something like 130, 140 pigs on site at the moment. We are running about 22 sows at present. So the pigs are plentiful in the production of manure. So the dung goes into the dung pit, and normally we dig it out every seed time. So every time when we've plowed, first plowing, we'll then take the manure and put the manure. So it's rotted for about 6 months.
Okay, that's good. Okay, now, in every business, there are always challenges and issues here and there. What are some of the challenges you've faced at Lightforce International, Lightforce Farm?
Too much sunshine, too little rain, too much rain, too little sunshine, thieves, pilfering, not doing things in the right way at the right time. Those are all challenges. Some of them we can control, some of them we can't control. One of the big challenges here in Northern Uganda is the climate. Last year our maize was very, very good because the rains and the sunshine and the seasons of rain and sunshine came at just the right times. This year, it's been very different. As I'm talking to you now, I'm just back in from walking around some couple of acres of maize, trying to decide whether we're going to use it to make silage or whether we're going to leave it and just take our chances with the cobs. But we're trying to make silage. We have 2 silage bunkers, and we're trying to make silage in volume, maize silage, and also we add some Napier to it as well to fill the bunker. And we're producing that for our cows. When our cows come, we need a good feed base. And so the weather has not been our friend this year, as many farmers in Uganda know.
Okay. It's actually been everywhere across the country on so many accounts. You talked of the issue of LRAs, the rebel group. How did you handle that? You coming in at a time and then the LRAs are coming in. How do you handle that challenge?
One of our main works was within the municipality of Lira. Okay. There were 16 plus 2, 18 IDP camps within the municipality, and Lightforce concentrated its activities within the municipality primarily, and we serviced about 5,423, I think was the number of vulnerable children and primary carers. On a monthly basis. We run child-friendly spaces for those kids. And we didn't come to face up to the LRA on the outskirts of Lira too much because we were not too involved out there. What we were dealing with were the people who had been affected. So the people that we were caring for, many of them had rushed to town from the outlying areas. But we saw people in hospital who'd been barbarically treated, We saw people who had lost their parents, children who were traumatized by the difficult situations. But our main work was in those 18 camps within the municipality.
Okay. On the Light Force International website, there's one tag I got interest into, and this is what it says.
Okay.
Light Force International believes that ordinary people can make an extraordinary difference in the lives of those in need. How is this applying at Light Force in Lira? Are you empowering the community to be what you are right now, so that your legacy can live forever?
We're trying to teach our staff, first of all, that they're not working for Light Force. They're not working for George, that they're actually working for themselves and for their own job security and for the future of this community. So we tell them, for example, if they steal a chicken, they didn't steal a chicken from Light Force. They stole a chicken that would have helped to pay the school fees for a poor child in this community. And so we're trying to get that message over to our staff. Then we run some groups for HIV widows. And for the HIV widows, we're trying to help them to care for each other. We're trying to make our Light Force staff a family together. For example, yesterday, I have currently about 70 workers working for Light Force, and I have construction teams working right now. We have about 20 builders. We've just in this lockdown, we've built a warehouse 21 meters long and 4 meters high to the eaves and 8 meters wide, and a store. We've built a shaded area behind the warehouse for our goats. We're building 3 chicken houses, and in 7 weeks, we're well on the way. By the middle to the end of August, all of these buildings will be finished, because where we keep our chickens now, we rent it. So yesterday, on top of our normal staff of about 50 people, we had 20 builders who've been working really hard. I gave everybody a chicken. So everybody went home with a chicken. So sometimes I motivate people and say, okay, who I see working the hardest today, there's a couple of chickens, and who I think has done the best, we'll give a chicken to. But we're a family as well. We're trying to say to people, we're working for each other. If I do my job well and you do your job well, the whole process goes well.
Yeah.
So everybody went home last night. Everybody went home last night with a chicken. They all benefited. With HIV widows, we have 4 groups of HIV widows. When those HIV widows come together, we try and teach them. You're watching out for each other. You have things in common. Don't hide from each other. Share with each other. And we're motivating them to run projects together so that they work together in the 4 villages that we have nearby. We also have a fellowship that takes place once a month for girls. These are teenage girls and into the early 20s. There's about 160 members of that fellowship. They meet together in a big garden that we own, and we distribute sanitary pads to them all every month. We give them life skills. We teach them about health and hygiene, sexual health, all of those things. We try to warn them against the challenges that they face in the society in which they're living. And again, watching out for each other and encouraging each other. So we're trying to impact them. And we're also trying to pass on the message to all our staff and to this community as well, that this is not a business.
Sure.
This is the business that will help send kids to school. This is the business that will help people be trained with life skills that can help provide them with an income for the years to come.
Sure. That's so beautiful, George. Really appreciate it. You know, I see why we had that tagline in on your website. I just loved it. It's so beautiful, and really someone saying ordinary people making extraordinary difference in the lives of others.
Yes.
So beautiful indeed. What are your future prospects as a Light Force farm?
Right now, as I told you, we have over 100 pigs. I want to grow the piggery to have 30 sows. So we'll add some new gilts in the near future.
Okay.
We have 20 plus now. We'll add another 10, and we'll bring the stock in from outside, so that we're not inbreeding. We'll bring new gilts, new boars, and we've culled some of our first sows over the last month, and we'll replace them. So we'll have 30 sows. We produce piglets. A lot of people are coming to us to buy piglets, and they're going away and they're starting their own small piggeries. So in one sense, if I look at it as a businessman, which I'm not, then these people are my competition. If I look at it as a development project, then these people are buying the benefit of good quality stock to go and do something that will also help them to do a good job in the future themselves. So piggery will continue to expand. The chickens, we rent our house for chickens right now, but the long-term plan is to have our own housing. That's why we built a new broiler house and 2 new layer units. And we have a plan to add another 2 units before next year, so that we can have about 1,000 broilers, and we can have 2,000 layers here on site. Dairy cows will come. We want to take six heifers, Frisian heifers, and produce about 100 liters of milk a day. And for all of this, we've built a little farm shop. I think you saw our small farm shop,
Yes.
which sits in an orange garden where we have orange trees. And the idea is that the farm shop is selling our eggs. It will sell our broilers, sell our off layers. It will sell pork. We'll have a pork joint and chicken grill behind the shop in the garden, and we'll harvest the oranges. And as well as selling sodas, we'll also sell freshly squeezed orange juice that's come from oranges in the garden. So we're trying to cut middlemen out where we can. We need to cut out the middleman, because the farmer is usually the poor man in the society. The farmer is the one who loses out. The one who buys from the farmer takes the produce away and makes something more with it. And what we have to try to learn is that we should become the producer and the one who takes puts the added value to the products that we make, so that we can get the best return back to the farm, rather than giving all our profit. When an agent comes and tells me he's come to buy pigs because he sells them to somebody else, I already know he's going to offer me little money, because he can't afford to offer me big money, because there's too many hands in the pie. This one needs a cut, this one needs a bit, this one needs something. And so by the time the farmer gets his bit, there's nothing to look at. He's working for nothing. So we're trying to teach our trainees and for our staff to understand that we need to add value to everything that we do.
Okay. So as we close to concluding our interview,
Sure.
one thing I would request from you. We are youth, we are young people, and at times we look at farming as something we do not love to go for, especially those who've learned, they have degrees, they have masters, and they're like, I can't go for farming. That's a dirty job. What advice do you have for them?
What I would say is this: if you want to make a business, do farming in a different way. If you've got half an acre of land, for example, you could plant easily 2,000 cabbages. 2,000 cabbages that you sold at 2,000 shillings each would bring you 4 million shillings. Now compare that with planting half an acre of maize and getting a couple of bags of maize off your land. It's a very different ballgame. And what we are doing is, so many people are continuing to support subsistence farming, where you just exist. We don't want to do subsistence farming. We want to do farming in a different way. So anybody who has a compound can keep 20 chickens. It's not difficult. Everybody keeping 20 chickens in their compound, if there's 6 people in the family, they can all eat an egg every day. That works. Everybody who's got a corner in their garden can create a small piggery. You don't need a big piece of land to have a piggery. And some of these things can be looked after whilst you do other work. You can feed your chickens in the morning, you can collect your eggs in the evening, you can put your chickens in at night, and they can work in your garden during the day. In the piggery, you can clean your pigs and feed them in the morning. You can come back and do the same at night, but you can also have another job as well. And slowly, you'll begin to see that the best results, if you do it well, will come from your small farm project. And don't dream about being a poor poverty farmer. Dream about becoming successful and effective. Because I learned one thing years ago, that if you're going to succeed, the first thing you need is a vision. You need to know what you're going to do. The second thing is you need to work hard to do it. And the third thing is you need to be ready to sacrifice. You don't become rich overnight. Nobody does. If you study the lives of rich businessmen around the world, those who didn't inherit off their parents, those people usually had some failures. They had some challenges along the way before they became very successful. So get a vision for what you want to do. Be ready to work hard at it. And remember to sacrifice. Early starts, late finishes. Some days farming gets you wet. Some days farming gets you burnt by the sun. Some days it's heavy work. Some days it's a bit boring. But all the time it will be fulfilling, because nature is a very wonderful thing to work with, because that's what God created.
Wow, George, thank you so much for that wisdom. Indeed, this is wisdom. I really appreciate, and thank you so much for accepting our invitation to share your story. It's indeed a good story for Life Force International. We really appreciate. Thank you so much. That's the time all we had for this interview.